It was a calm evening at a famous restaurant in the city. The restaurant was known not just for its food but for its elegant atmosphere. The chandeliers shone brightly, reflecting light on the polished wooden floors. The sound of soft chatter and clinking glasses filled the air. Waitresses moved gracefully between the tables, balancing plates and pouring drinks. Among them was a young waitress who had worked at the restaurant for years. She knew every table, every regular guest, and she always tried to make everyone feel comfortable and welcome. She was quiet, polite, and focused on her work, never drawing attention to herself. Her uniform was neat, and her hair tied back, but her eyes always held a spark of kindness. On that evening, a billionaire entered the restaurant with a small group of friends. He was a man known for his wealth, his influence, and his powerful presence. He had traveled the world, seen many things, and often found himself in places where most people would feel out of place. But in this restaurant he felt comfortable. He had visited many times before, and he enjoyed the luxury and calm that came with the experience. As he walked to his table, he noticed the young waitress moving between the guests. Something about her caught his eye. It was not her beauty or her elegance, although she had both. It was the way she smiled at the children at the next table, how she helped an elderly man adjust his chair, and the quiet confidence with which she carried herself. He was intrigued. The waitress approached his table to take their order. She greeted him politely and asked if they needed any recommendations. The billionaire glanced at her and in a playful tone asked, "Can you play the piano?" The question caught her completely off guard. She looked at him with surprise. She had never been asked such a thing at work. Polite and composed, she shook her head slightly and said, "No, sir. I'm sorry, I don't play." The billionaire's eyes sparkled with curiosity, and he leaned back in his chair with a slight smile. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I have seen many people who hide talents they don't show. Sometimes the world needs a little push to see it." The waitress hesitated. She knew she had never shared her secret with anyone. At home, she had an old, out-of-tune piano. She had spent countless nights practicing quietly, learning notes and playing melodies she loved. No one knew she could play. It was her secret world, a place where she could escape from the pressures of her daily life. But here, in the restaurant, in front of a group of strangers and a billionaire, the idea of playing seemed impossible. Yet something in the billionaire's eyes made her feel a mixture of fear and curiosity. She nodded politely and said, "I'm afraid I can't." The billionaire chuckled softly and leaned forward. "Well, we will see about that," he said. His tone was not mean, but there was a playful challenge in his voice. He continued, "If you can play, I will make sure your life changes forever. If not, it will just be a funny story for tonight." The waitress's heart started beating faster. She could feel her hands trembling slightly as she held the order pad. She had never performed in front of anyone. The thought of standing in front of the piano with everyone watching made her nervous. But there was also a part of her that was curious, that wanted to see if she could rise to the challenge. She knew that life had rarely given her chances like this. Perhaps this was her moment. As she tried to regain her composure, other guests at the restaurant began to notice the conversation. Some whispered quietly, curious about the unusual request. The restaurant, which had been filled with normal dinner chatter, suddenly became alert. People started paying attention to the young waitress. She could feel their eyes on her, curious, expecting something unusual. The atmosphere changed from calm to tense with anticipation. She took a deep breath and said softly, "I can try." Her voice was almost inaudible, but it carried enough courage to surprise even herself. The billionaire's eyes widened slightly, showing a hint of surprise. He did not expect her to accept. A small smile appeared on his lips. "Good," he said. "Please go to the piano." He gestured toward a grand piano placed in a corner of the restaurant. Its polished surface reflected the warm lights, and the black and white keys seemed to beckon her. The waitress walked slowly, her steps measured, trying to stay calm. Her hands were slightly shaking as she reached the piano. She looked at the keys, her fingers hovering above them. The crowd had grown, and now more people were watching. The sound of whispers filled the air. The billionaire remained seated, watching her intently, curious to see what would happen. The waitress closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the hours she had spent at home practicing in the quiet. She recalled the melodies she had loved, the songs that had comforted her in lonely nights. She took a deep breath and placed her fingers on the keys. The first note she played was soft and tentative. It rang clear in the restaurant, surprising some of the guests who had expected a failure. She hesitated for a moment, then played another note. Slowly, the melody started to form. It was delicate, simple at first, but it carried emotion. The room began to change. The soft chatter faded as people realized that something extraordinary was happening. The waitress was no longer just a server. She was a musician, and the piano was her voice. The billionaire leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly in focus. He had seen many talented people in his life, but there was something unique about this moment. The music was unexpected, beautiful, and heartfelt. The guests were silent, listening carefully, captivated by the melody that flowed from her fingers. The young waitress felt her fear slowly melting away, replaced by concentration and the joy of creating something wonderful. She had never played in front of an audience, yet her hands seemed to know exactly what to do. The piano became an extension of her feelings, each note telling a story of hope, dreams, and hidden talent. As she continued to play, a sense of calm confidence settled over her. She could feel the eyes of the guests upon her, but she did not feel nervous anymore. Instead, she felt alive, as if the piano had always been waiting for this moment for her to finally share her gift. The billionaire watched silently, his playful challenge now replaced with genuine admiration. He realized that he had underestimated the quiet young waitress. She was more than she appeared, and her talent was undeniable. Guests in the restaurant began to smile and nod in appreciation, their earlier skepticism replaced with amazement. The music filled the room, and for a few magical minutes everyone forgot about their meals, their conversations, and the world outside. They were immersed in the beauty of her playing, captivated by the unexpected brilliance of someone they had overlooked. The young waitress's fingers moved effortlessly over the keys, creating melodies that were both gentle and powerful. The room seemed to breathe with her music. Some guests whispered to each other, amazed that someone who had appeared so ordinary could possess such extraordinary talent. The atmosphere was electric with surprise and admiration. The billionaire's initial curiosity had turned into respect. He realized that moments like this were rare, and he felt privileged to witness her performance. The waitress, who had been nervous just moments before, now felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had faced a challenge she never expected, and she was rising to it beautifully. The piano had become her stage, and her music spoke louder than words ever could. As the final notes lingered in the air, the restaurant remained silent for a moment. Everyone was in awe, unable to speak immediately. The young waitress sat at the piano, her hands resting on the keys, breathing heavily but smiling softly. She had done it. She had turned a moment of fear into an extraordinary display of talent. The billionaire finally clapped softly at first, then more loudly, encouraging the guests to join in. The applause filled the room, and the young waitress felt a warmth in her chest she had never felt before. It was a mix of relief, pride, and a strange new sense of possibility. She realized that this night, which had begun like any other, had transformed into something unforgettable. She had been seen in a way she had never been seen before, and it was only the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. The young waitress had just finished the first few notes of her melody, and the room was already captivated. But as she looked around, she realized that the audience was larger and more attentive than she had imagined. Guests from nearby tables were quietly shifting their chairs to get a better view, some holding their forks mid-air, their meals forgotten. Even the staff had stopped moving, watching silently from behind the counter. The restaurant, which had moments ago been filled with chatter and clinking glasses, had become a stage for her music. Her hands trembled slightly as she continued, but she forced herself to focus on the piano keys, on the rhythm, on the story she wanted to tell through each note. The billionaire, seated at the center of it all, watched with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. His playful challenge from before had shifted into something more serious. He was no longer wondering if she could play. He knew she could, but he was now captivated by the way she could command attention without saying a word. It was rare to see someone who could surprise in such a quiet, unassuming way. Her heart beat faster and her palms were slightly sweaty. Yet in the midst of nervousness there was excitement, a thrill that she had never felt before. It was a feeling of stepping into a new world, a world where her hidden talent was finally visible. She began to play more confidently, letting the music flow naturally. The notes became richer, the melody more expressive. She remembered the evenings she had spent alone, practicing the piano in her small apartment, imagining audiences and performances, dreaming of moments just like this. Now her dream had taken form in reality, though unexpectedly and in front of a very real crowd. The guests in the restaurant started leaning in, their expressions shifting from curiosity to awe. They had come for dinner and luxury, but now they were witnessing a rare moment of raw talent. Some held their hands over their mouths, unable to believe the skill they were hearing, while others closed their eyes, allowing the music to wash over them completely. The waitress's mind was a mixture of concentration and emotion. She thought of her family, her long hours of work, and the times she had doubted herself. She had always loved music, but she had never imagined it could capture so much attention, or that someone as powerful as the billionaire would notice. Each chord she played seemed to tell a story of her journey, of perseverance, hope, and quiet dedication. Her fingers moved with a grace that surprised even her, as if the piano had been waiting for this exact moment to reveal her hidden gift. The room seemed to breathe with her music, every note echoing softly against the walls and chandeliers. The young waitress realized that she was no longer just playing. She was connecting with every person in that room, speaking a language that needed no words. The billionaire shifted slightly in his seat, leaning forward with a newfound respect. He was known for his keen eye for talent, yet this was unexpected. He had seen many performers, many professionals, many people claiming to have skill, but few had the authenticity and raw emotion that this young woman displayed. He understood that her music was more than just technical ability. It was a reflection of her soul, her experiences, and the life she had led. He could see that this was not a staged performance, not a show for attention. This was genuine, heartfelt, and unpretentious. The young waitress, though nervous at first, was now immersed in the music, and she began to feel a connection with the audience, a shared understanding that transcended words. It was a magical moment, one that the billionaire knew he would not forget. Guests who had initially been skeptical now whispered in amazement. They spoke softly, afraid to disturb the music, but their faces lit up with smiles of wonder. Some had come expecting a quiet evening with fine dining and conversation. Yet they were now witnesses to an extraordinary event. The music had a way of drawing them in, capturing their attention and imagination. Children sat wide-eyed, entranced by the sound, while adults paused mid-bite, captivated by the elegance and emotion of her performance. Even the staff, who had seen the waitress hundreds of times, were stunned. They had known she had a quiet love for music, but they had never imagined her skill could be this extraordinary. For the young waitress, it was both humbling and empowering. She could see the impact her playing had on everyone, and it made her want to continue, to explore the full range of her abilities in this unexpected spotlight. As she played, she noticed the change in the billionaire's expression. The playful smirk he had worn earlier was gone, replaced by a look of deep admiration. He was silent, his attention fully on her, watching her fingers move across the keys. He realized that what he had intended as a light-hearted challenge had turned into a revelation. He had discovered a hidden talent, and it humbled him in a way he had not anticipated. In that moment, he understood that talent could appear in the most unlikely places and that the world was full of surprises if one only looked carefully enough. He had challenged her, expecting perhaps embarrassment or a polite refusal, but instead he was witnessing brilliance. The melody began to evolve, growing richer and more intricate. The waitress allowed herself to explore the music freely now, her confidence growing with every passing note. She was no longer thinking about the audience or the billionaire. She was thinking only of the music, letting it guide her hands. She remembered the long nights alone at home, practicing scales, learning songs by ear, and imagining herself performing on a stage. Those nights had prepared her for this, even if she had never known when or how it would happen. Now she was living that dream, even in the most unexpected of places. The restaurant had transformed from a dining room into a concert hall, and she was the center of it all, commanding attention with her skill and emotion. Guests began to respond subtly at first. Some tapped their fingers along to the rhythm. Others swayed gently in their seats, feeling the music resonate within them. The atmosphere was charged with an energy that only true talent could create. The young waitress, sensing the connection, felt a surge of confidence. Her music had power, It could capture attention, evoke emotions, and even change perceptions. She could see that people were no longer seeing her as just a waitress. They were seeing her as an artist, a person with skill, passion, and depth. The realization was overwhelming, yet it also brought a sense of joy and fulfillment she had never experienced before. The billionaire finally spoke, his voice quiet but filled with respect. "I underestimated you," he said. It was not a criticism, but an acknowledgement of her talent. The words made her smile slightly, though she continued to play. She had faced a challenge, and she was proving not only to herself, but to everyone in the room that she was capable of far more than anyone had imagined. The room seemed to hold its breath as she played, every note carefully chosen, every pause meaningful. The music was no longer just a performance. It was a story, a journey, a revelation of hidden potential. People began to look at her differently, realizing that sometimes the most extraordinary things are hidden in plain sight. By the time she finished the piece, the restaurant was silent for a moment, as if everyone needed time to process what they had just witnessed. Then slowly applause began to rise, soft at first, then stronger and more enthusiastic. Guests clapped, some stood and others smiled with tears in their eyes. The young waitress breathed heavily, her heart still racing, but a smile spread across her face. She had done it. She had taken a moment of fear and turned it into something remarkable. She had shown everyone, including herself, that her talent was real, that it mattered, and that it could inspire those around her. The billionaire's eyes were wide with amazement, and for the first time in a long time he was speechless. The young waitress had not only met the challenge, she had exceeded it, leaving an unforgettable impression on everyone present in the restaurant that evening. The restaurant was alive with a quiet tension that no one had expected at the start of the evening. The young waitress sat at the grand piano, her hands poised above the keys, and a sense of calm determination settled over her. She took a deep breath and let the first note ring out clearly, cutting through the soft hum of the restaurant. The sound was more confident than before, and she felt the subtle thrill of recognition as the guests' eyes followed her every movement. They had begun to notice that this was no ordinary performance. It was something deeper, something that carried emotion and meaning. Her fingers glided across the keys, moving with precision and grace, each note resonating with a story only she could tell. The billionaire watched intently, leaning forward slightly in his chair, his curiosity transforming into admiration. He had seen countless performances, attended exclusive concerts, and met many accomplished musicians. Yet there was something unique about this young waitress. Her talent was raw, genuine, and completely unexpected. He could see that this was not about showing off or performing for attention. This was a gift, a quiet brilliance that had been hidden away, and now it was being revealed in the most surprising of places. He found himself drawn into the music, forgetting for a moment that he was a man of power and influence. Here, all that mattered was the sound, the talent, and the courage it took to share it. As she continued to play, the audience grew more attentive. The soft clinking of cutlery and murmurs of conversation had faded completely, replaced by the sound of the piano filling the room. Guests leaned forward in their chairs, captivated by the melody and the emotion behind each note. Children stopped fidgeting, their eyes wide in amazement, and even the restaurant staff found themselves pausing to witness the extraordinary moment. The young waitress felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. Her heart raced, but it was no longer out of fear. It was excitement, the kind that comes when you are doing something you were born to do, something that finally feels right. She remembered the late nights she had spent alone, practicing in her small apartment, dreaming of a moment like this. Now that dream was real, and she was determined to make the most of it. Her fingers moved with a fluidity that surprised even her. She had practiced countless times, but never with an audience of strangers and never under such pressure. The pressure could have broken her, but instead, it seemed to strengthen her resolve. Each chord she played was deliberate, each transition smooth, as if the piano itself were guiding her. The music carried a sense of hope and longing, drawing the listeners into her world. She could feel the energy of the room, the way the audience was leaning in, holding their breath, waiting for each note. It was a connection unlike anything she had experienced before, a silent conversation between her and everyone present. The billionaire could not hide his surprise any longer. He had expected a simple performance, maybe a few awkward notes, and then a polite retreat back to her work. But this was something entirely different. He could see the passion in her eyes, the focus and dedication in every movement. He realized that he had underestimated her, that talent often lies in the most unexpected places. His mind raced with possibilities, thinking about what this young woman could achieve if given the opportunity. Yet he also understood that the beauty of this moment was in its authenticity. This was not about fame or recognition. This was about expression, about someone finally letting their hidden talent shine for the world to see. The young waitress began to experiment with the melody, adding subtle variations and flourishes that revealed her creativity. She had always loved improvisation, the freedom to explore music in her own way, and now she had the chance to express herself fully. The audience responded without words. They could sense the depth of her skill, the thoughtfulness behind each note. Some whispered to each other, unable to contain their amazement. Others closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them, feeling the emotion behind every sound. The restaurant, once filled with the normal background noise of dining, had transformed into a concert hall, intimate and full of wonder. She remembered her family, her parents who had supported her love for music even when it seemed impractical, and the long hours she had spent balancing work and her passion. Every note she played carried a piece of her story, a reminder of the struggles she had faced and the small victories she had earned. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a storyteller using the piano as her voice. The audience could feel it too, the sincerity and depth behind her performance creating an atmosphere of awe and respect. The billionaire, known for his critical eye, nodded subtly in approval, impressed not only by her technical ability but by the emotional resonance of her music. As she played, she noticed that some guests had tears in their eyes. They were moved by the purity of her expression, the unexpected brilliance that had emerged in such an ordinary setting. The young waitress felt a mix of humility and pride. She had never played for an audience like this before, and yet she was connecting with people in a profound way. The piano keys beneath her fingers seemed to respond to her emotions, amplifying her feelings and projecting them into the room. Each note carried intention and purpose, and the guests could sense the authenticity in her performance. It was a reminder that true talent is not always found on grand stages or in prestigious venues, but often in the most unexpected moments. The billionaire leaned back slightly, taking in the scene with a quiet smile. He had witnessed many performances in his life, but few had the impact of what was happening now. He realized that this young waitress was not only talented but also brave. She had accepted a challenge, faced her fears, and revealed a part of herself that had been hidden for so long. Her courage was as remarkable as her skill, and he found himself considering how he could support her talent in meaningful ways. The thought of offering opportunities, guidance, or even mentorship crossed his mind. He wanted to ensure that this moment would not be the last, that her potential could be nurtured and recognized beyond the walls of the restaurant. The music continued to fill the room, growing richer and more complex. The young waitress allowed herself to get lost in the melody, her fingers moving effortlessly across the keys. She was fully present in the moment, feeling the rhythm, the harmony, and the subtle nuances of the piano. Her confidence grew with each passing second, and she realized that she had never felt so alive. The audience was completely absorbed, and the energy in the room was electric. She could feel the connection, the shared experience, and it fueled her performance. The music had become a bridge between her world and theirs, a way to communicate emotions that words could not capture. Some guests began to whisper softly, asking each other about her background, wondering how someone so young and seemingly ordinary could possess such extraordinary talent. The restaurant staff exchanged glances, clearly impressed and inspired. The young waitress continued to play, sensing the growing admiration and respect. She had entered this moment with nerves and uncertainty, but now she was embracing the challenge with joy and determination. The piano had become her sanctuary, a place where she could express herself fully and connect with others in a way she had never imagined. The billionaire finally spoke, his voice low but firm, cutting through the music without interrupting it. "You have a rare gift," he said. His words were not meant to distract or praise superficially, but to acknowledge the truth of what he had just witnessed. The young waitress felt a shiver run down her spine, not out of fear, but from the weight of recognition. She had been seen, truly seen, in a way that validated years of quiet effort and dedication. The applause from the audience grew louder, echoing through the restaurant, and she allowed herself a brief smile before continuing to play. She was determined to make this moment count, to honor the opportunity she had been given and the trust placed in her by the audience and the billionaire. As the piece reached its climax, her fingers moved with precision and passion. The melody swelled, filling every corner of the room with sound. She felt a sense of liberation, as if each note was lifting her spirit higher. The audience responded with quiet awe, some leaning forward in their seats, others closing their eyes to savor the music. It was a shared experience, a moment of connection and admiration that transcended social status, wealth, and daily routines. The young waitress had created something extraordinary, and the impact was visible in every face around her. The billionaire watched, knowing that this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and he felt privileged to witness it. The final notes lingered in the air, soft and gentle, creating a sense of completion and peace. The room was silent for a moment, as if everyone needed time to process what they had just heard. Then slowly applause began to rise, soft at first, then stronger, more enthusiastic. Guests rose from their chairs, clapping and cheering, some with tears in their eyes. The young waitress sat back, breathing heavily, her heart still racing, but a wide smile spreading across her face. She had done it. She had faced a challenge that could have been terrifying, and turned it into something magical. She had shared her talent, her story, and her heart with the world, and the response had been overwhelming. The billionaire approached her quietly after the applause had subsided, his expression one of genuine admiration. He extended his hand, not just in congratulations but in recognition of her courage and talent. "You have an extraordinary gift," he said softly. "This is just the beginning." The young waitress looked at him, her eyes wide with gratitude and disbelief. She had never imagined that a single evening, a simple challenge, could lead to such a profound moment. She realized that her life was about to change, not because of wealth or recognition alone, but because her hidden talent had been seen, appreciated, and celebrated. It was a turning point, a moment that would stay with her forever, and she knew that she would never forget the feeling of playing the piano, the music flowing through her, and the audience captivated by her story. The applause filled the restaurant, echoing off the walls and mingling with the soft lighting that bathed the room in warmth. The young waitress sat at the piano, her hands slowly lifting from the keys, her heart still racing from the intensity of the performance. She looked around at the faces in the crowd, seeing admiration, wonder, and something more, an acknowledgement that went beyond simple appreciation. This was respect, the kind that comes from recognizing someone's hidden potential finally brought to life. She felt a swell of emotion, a mixture of pride, relief, and disbelief. She had never imagined that playing in front of strangers could be so powerful, so transformative. The billionaire remained seated, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that was not imposing, but thoughtful. He had witnessed countless moments of talent, but this was different. It was raw, genuine, and deeply moving. He realized that he had played a part in this, perhaps unintentionally, by challenging her, and now he wanted to ensure that her talent did not go unnoticed or unappreciated beyond this moment. The young waitress noticed him, sensing that he was no longer a distant observer but someone genuinely invested in what she had just shared. His gaze was encouraging, almost inviting her to embrace the possibilities that were now opening before her. Guests began to rise slowly from their seats, some clapping more enthusiastically, others approaching to offer words of congratulations. The room was buzzing with energy, an excitement that was palpable yet not overwhelming. People were speaking softly in tones of awe and admiration, discussing her talent and the beauty of her performance. The young waitress felt a combination of nervousness and empowerment. She had revealed a part of herself that had been hidden for years, and now the world was responding with acknowledgement and encouragement. It was a heady feeling, a mixture of relief and exhilaration, as if she had crossed an invisible threshold into a new chapter of her life. The billionaire finally stood, making his way towards her with deliberate steps. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to commanding attention, but there was a gentleness in his approach that put her at ease. He reached the piano and looked at her directly. "Your talent is rare," he said softly, his tone sincere and unhurried. "It deserves to be nurtured and shared. I want to help you do that." The words struck her deeply. She had never considered that someone with such power and influence would take an interest in her life and her potential. She blinked, unsure how to respond, overwhelmed by the sincerity of the offer. She realized that this moment was more than just recognition. It was a chance. A chance to take the skill she had honed in secret and transform it into something meaningful, something that could touch many lives. The billionaire gestured towards the audience, who were still murmuring in excitement and admiration. "You have a gift that can inspire," he said. "Don't let it stay hidden. Opportunities like this are rare, and I would like to help you explore them." The young waitress felt a lump in her throat, her emotions swelling. She had spent years working tirelessly, often doubting herself, often believing that her talent would remain a secret. Now, in this unexpected twist of fate, she was being offered guidance, support, and perhaps a path she had never imagined. The guests began to approach in small groups, offering words of encouragement. Some shared stories of their own experiences with music or talent. Others simply smiled, expressing their amazement. The young waitress listened, feeling a sense of community and connection that she had not anticipated. Her performance had broken down barriers, bringing strangers together in shared appreciation of something beautiful. The room was no longer just a restaurant. It had become a space of celebration and recognition. Each person she met seemed genuinely touched by her music and her courage. The billionaire's presence remained a constant reassurance. He spoke to her about possibilities, lessons with renowned teachers, opportunities to perform at special events, and ways to develop her craft professionally. She listened, absorbing each word with a mix of gratitude and awe. She had never imagined that one evening, one performance could open so many doors. The idea that someone believed in her potential enough to invest time and resources in her future was overwhelming. She realized that this was a pivotal moment, a chance to move from hidden talent to recognized skill, from uncertainty to opportunity. As the evening progressed, she found herself speaking with some of the guests. They asked about her background, how she had learned to play, and what inspired her. She shared bits of her story, careful to remain humble yet honest. The guests responded warmly, some expressing admiration for her dedication, others simply captivated by the authenticity of her experience. The young waitress felt a sense of belonging, of being seen not just as a server but as an individual with passion, skill, and dreams. It was a profound shift, one that filled her with hope and determination. She thought back to the long nights at home, practicing in solitude, feeling uncertain if her efforts would ever matter. Every scale, every note, every piece she had learned in secret had prepared her for this unexpected moment. She realized that her patience and persistence had not been in vain. The piano had been her constant companion, her refuge, and now it had become her bridge to a wider world. She could feel a deep sense of purpose rising within her, a desire to continue, to grow, and to share her gift with as many people as possible. The billionaire continued to engage with her throughout the evening, offering guidance and encouragement. He shared stories of other talented individuals he had encountered, emphasizing the importance of opportunity, mentorship, and self-belief. His words were more than just praise. They were a roadmap, a vision for what could be achieved if she embraced the possibilities. The young waitress listened intently, absorbing the advice and feeling a sense of empowerment that she had never experienced before. She understood that talent alone was not enough. The right support and opportunities could amplify her abilities and open doors that had once seemed closed. The atmosphere in the restaurant remained charged with excitement and admiration. Guests continued to approach, sharing their own reflections on the performance and expressing encouragement. Some offered connections, others shared advice, and a few simply expressed wonder at the unexpected brilliance they had witnessed. The young waitress felt a growing sense of confidence and responsibility. She realized that her music had the power to move people, to inspire, and to create moments of connection. It was no longer just a personal pursuit. It was something that could touch lives, influence experiences, and leave a lasting impact. She thought about her future, considering the possibilities that had suddenly opened before her. She could pursue formal training, explore performance opportunities, and share her music with a wider audience. The path ahead was both exciting and uncertain, but she felt ready to embrace it. The recognition she had received that evening was not just validation. It was a call to action, a reminder that her talent was valuable and deserving of cultivation. She resolved to seize the moment, to work diligently, and to continue growing as both a musician and an individual. The billionaire continued to offer support, discussing practical steps and potential opportunities. He emphasized the importance of persistence, focus, and self-belief. The young waitress felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had never expected her life to change so dramatically in one evening, yet here she was, surrounded by encouragement, admiration, and genuine interest in her potential. She realized that the world could be full of surprises, that opportunities could appear in the most unexpected places, and that courage and willingness to step forward could unlock doors she had never imagined. As the night wore on, the young waitress reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the challenges she had faced, the moments of doubt, and the quiet dedication that had kept her connected to her passion for music. She recognized that every experience, every struggle, and every moment of perseverance had led to this transformative evening. The piano had been her companion, her teacher, and now it had become the vehicle for a profound change in her life. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had shared her gift in a way that resonated with others and that had the potential to shape her future. The guests continued to express their admiration and encouragement, creating an atmosphere of warmth and support. The young waitress felt a profound connection with everyone in the room, a sense of shared experience and mutual appreciation. The music had bridged the gap between server and guest, between observer and performer, creating a moment of unity and inspiration. She understood that this was a rare and precious experience, one that she would carry with her always, shaping her perspective and fueling her ambitions. By the end of the evening, the young waitress had not only performed beautifully, but had also established a network of support and recognition. The billionaire's encouragement, the guests' admiration, and the staff's appreciation combined to create a powerful affirmation of her talent and potential. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to continue pursuing her passion with dedication, courage, and confidence. The piano had revealed her hidden brilliance, and now the world had taken notice. She realized that her journey was just beginning, and she was ready to embrace the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. The young waitress walked away from the piano with a sense of awe and disbelief. The applause had finally subsided, but the impact of her performance lingered in the air, heavy with admiration and appreciation. She could feel the energy in the room, the way guests were still talking quietly among themselves, some reflecting on what they had witnessed, others discussing her talent and the courage it had taken to share it. The experience was overwhelming, yet it was also deeply affirming. She realized that she had crossed a boundary, stepping from a life of quiet service into a space where her abilities were recognized, valued, and celebrated. The billionaire followed her, his presence calm yet purposeful. He did not approach with the airs of power or authority that often intimidated people, but with genuine interest and encouragement. He had seen many talented individuals in his life, but few had combined skill with authenticity and courage in the way she had. He had challenged her, expecting perhaps hesitation or embarrassment. But what he had witnessed was something far greater. Raw talent paired with emotional depth, skill coupled with heart. He spoke to her quietly, choosing words with care. "What you have is rare," he said. "Not just the ability to play, but the ability to move people. That is something that can change your life if you nurture it." The young waitress listened, her heart racing. She could hardly believe that someone with such influence was offering not just praise but opportunity. Guests continued to approach, some sharing compliments, others asking questions about her journey and how she had learned to play the piano. The young waitress responded with humility, speaking softly about her practice, her love for music, and the countless hours she had spent learning in solitude. Yet beneath her words was a quiet pride, a recognition that her dedication had led to this extraordinary moment. People listened intently, nodding in understanding and admiration. It was clear that her story resonated, not just because of her talent, but because of her perseverance and passion. The billionaire stepped aside, allowing the young waitress to engage with the guests and share her story. He observed quietly, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. He had facilitated an opportunity, but it was her talent, courage, and dedication that had captivated the room. He could see the impact she was having on those around her, and he understood that this moment could serve as a turning point in her life. The young waitress was no longer defined by her job or her quiet existence. She was emerging as a person whose abilities commanded attention and respect. As the evening progressed, the young waitress began to feel a shift within herself. The initial nervousness and self-doubt had transformed into confidence and purpose. She realized that her performance had revealed not only her talent, but also her capacity to rise to challenges and connect with people through her art. The audience's response was more than applause. It was acknowledgement of her identity and potential. Each compliment, each smile, each look of admiration reinforced the idea that she could achieve more than she had ever imagined. The billionaire took the opportunity to discuss potential paths forward. He spoke about music lessons with renowned instructors, opportunities to perform at prestigious events, and ways to develop her skills further. He emphasized that talent alone was not enough. Guidance, mentorship, and support could help amplify her abilities and open doors that had previously seemed closed. The young waitress listened carefully, absorbing every word. The possibilities were both exciting and daunting, but she felt ready to embrace them. She understood that her life was changing, and she was determined to move forward with dedication and courage. Guests continued to express their admiration and support. Some offered connections within the music industry. Others shared personal stories of encouragement, and a few simply offered smiles of appreciation. The young waitress felt a growing sense of community and belonging. She realized that her performance had not only showcased her talent, but had also created bonds with people who recognized her dedication and potential. It was a profound experience, one that reinforced her desire to continue pursuing her passion and to share her music with as many people as possible. Reflecting on the journey that had led to this moment, the young waitress thought about the countless nights she had spent practicing alone, the small victories and setbacks that had shaped her skill, and the unwavering love for music that had kept her motivated. Each experience had contributed to the performance she had just delivered. She understood that perseverance, dedication, and quiet commitment could lead to extraordinary outcomes, even when recognition seemed distant or unlikely. The piano had been her constant companion, a source of comfort and expression, and now it had become the instrument through which she could transform her life. As the evening drew to a close, the young waitress found herself surrounded by admiration, opportunity, and possibility. The billionaire continued to offer guidance and support, emphasizing the importance of seizing the moment and investing in her future. She felt a profound sense of gratitude and responsibility. The performance had revealed her hidden brilliance, and now it was up to her to nurture and expand it. She understood that this was only the beginning of a journey that could lead to remarkable experiences, personal growth, and the fulfillment of long-held dreams. The guests began to leave, many approaching her to offer final words of encouragement. She thanked them sincerely, feeling the weight and warmth of their support. The atmosphere in the restaurant remained charged with inspiration and admiration. It was clear that her performance had left a lasting impression on everyone present. The young waitress realized that her life had shifted in a single evening, propelled by courage, talent, and the unexpected opportunity presented by the billionaire's challenge. As she prepared to leave the restaurant, she reflected on the profound impact of the night. She had stepped into the unknown, faced her fears, and revealed a part of herself that had long been hidden. The response she had received reinforced the idea that her efforts, dedication, and passion were not only valid but powerful. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, a desire to continue exploring her abilities, and a commitment to sharing her music with the world. The piano had given her a voice, and now the world was listening. The billionaire remained a supportive presence, discussing practical steps, opportunities, and ways to cultivate her talent. His guidance was both reassuring and empowering. He emphasized that success was not only about skill, but also about persistence, resilience, and the willingness to embrace opportunities when they arose. The young waitress felt inspired by his words, recognizing that she had been given a rare and valuable chance to grow and develop. She understood that her journey would require dedication, hard work, and courage, but she was ready to embrace it fully. In the days that followed, the young waitress reflected on the events of the evening. She realized that her life had been irrevocably changed, not just by recognition or opportunity, but by the validation of her talent and the affirmation of her potential. She understood that talent could emerge from the most unexpected places, that courage could open doors, and that the support of others could amplify abilities in ways she had never imagined. The experience left her both humbled and inspired. Determined to continue pursuing her passion and to honor the gift she had been given, she began to plan for the future, exploring opportunities to develop her skills further, seeking guidance from mentors, and considering ways to share her music with a broader audience. Each step was informed by the lessons of the evening, the importance of courage, authenticity, and dedication. She felt a renewed sense of confidence and purpose, understanding that her journey was just beginning, and that the potential for growth and achievement was vast. The performance had not only revealed her talent but had also ignited a sense of possibility and hope. The young waitress remained grounded, aware of the responsibility that came with her talent and the opportunities before her. She continued to work diligently, balancing her responsibilities with the pursuit of her passion. She embraced each challenge with determination, drawing strength from the encouragement she had received and the affirmation of her abilities. Her journey was a testament to the power of perseverance, courage, and the willingness to step into the unknown, even when uncertainty and fear were present. As she moved forward, she carried the memory of that evening with her, the applause, the admiration, the support, and the transformative power of music. She understood that talent, when nurtured and shared, could create profound connections, inspire others, and open doors to possibilities that had once seemed beyond reach. The young waitress had discovered not only her own potential, but also the impact that courage, dedication, and authenticity could have on the world around her. In time, the young waitress continued to perform, grow, and develop her skills, taking every opportunity to learn, share, and inspire. The piano remained her companion, her voice and her instrument of transformation. She understood that her journey was ongoing, filled with challenges, growth, and the potential for extraordinary experiences. The support she had received, the recognition of her talent, and the validation of her dedication had created a foundation upon which she could build a future of creativity, expression, and fulfillment. She had been given a rare opportunity, and she embraced it fully, determined to make the most of her talent, passion, and potential. The days following her unforgettable performance were a whirlwind of emotion and change. The young waitress returned to her routine at the restaurant, but nothing felt the same. The moment she had shared at the piano lingered in her mind, reminding her of both her talent and the doors that had opened unexpectedly. Customers began to recognize her in subtle ways, a few even approaching to mention that they had witnessed her performance and were still talking about it. Some were curious, asking if she had always played so beautifully, while others simply offered smiles of admiration. She felt a mixture of pride and humility, realizing that her life was starting to shift in ways she had never imagined. The billionaire remained in contact, reaching out with encouragement and ideas for how she could grow as a musician. He suggested a series of lessons with a renowned pianist who could refine her technique and help her explore new musical styles. He also mentioned opportunities to perform at smaller events and local concerts, to gain experience and build confidence. Though these suggestions were overwhelming at first, the young waitress felt excitement bubble up inside her. For the first time, she could imagine a future where her talent was not hidden, where her music could touch more people, and where she could follow a path that had previously seemed impossible. She began to practice with a renewed focus, dedicating hours each day to improving her skills. The piano, once just a companion in quiet moments, became a tool for exploration and growth. She experimented with melodies, tried new techniques, and learned to express emotions more deeply through her playing. Each session brought a sense of accomplishment, a reminder that her dedication and perseverance had laid the groundwork for this moment. Her confidence grew steadily, fueled not only by her own progress but also by the knowledge that people believed in her potential and were willing to support her journey. Opportunities slowly started to appear. Invitations to perform at local events came in, some from people who had seen her play at the restaurant, others through the connections provided by the billionaire. Each offer was a chance to step further into a world she had only dreamed about. She approached these opportunities with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Each performance was a challenge, but also a reminder of the power of her music to connect with others. The audience's reactions were affirming, giving her the courage to continue refining her craft and exploring new avenues. The young waitress also began to see changes in her personal life. Friends and family noticed a shift in her demeanor, a new confidence and sense of purpose that had been ignited by her performance and the recognition she received. They encouraged her, celebrating each step she took toward her potential. The support of those around her, combined with the guidance from the billionaire and her own dedication, created a strong foundation for her continued growth. She began to understand that talent alone was not enough. The encouragement, mentorship, and opportunities she received were just as vital in shaping her journey. As she progressed, she encountered challenges that tested her resilience. There were moments of self-doubt, times when she felt overwhelmed by the expectations and the possibilities before her. She wondered if she was ready for the attention and responsibility that came with her talent. But each time she faced these doubts, she returned to the piano, allowing her music to guide her and restore her confidence. She realized that the piano was not just an instrument, but a source of strength and clarity. It reminded her of her love for music, her dedication, and the joy she felt when she played. These moments of practice and reflection reinforced her belief in her abilities and her commitment to continue growing. The billionaire remained a consistent presence in her journey, offering advice, encouragement, and introductions to people who could help her further. He emphasized the importance of hard work, persistence, and maintaining authenticity in her music. He encouraged her to take risks, try new styles, and perform in various settings to broaden her experience. The young waitress valued his guidance and wisdom, recognizing that his support was instrumental in helping her navigate this new chapter of her life. His belief in her potential gave her courage, and his mentorship provided a roadmap for growth and opportunity. As her reputation grew, she began to perform at more significant events, from small concerts to private gatherings where influential people could appreciate her music. Each performance was a chance to showcase her talent, connect with a new audience, and refine her skills. She approached these events with a sense of purpose, understanding that each note she played was a reflection of her dedication, her story, and her passion. The response from audiences reinforced her confidence, confirming that her music could inspire and move people in ways that were both powerful and meaningful. The young waitress also discovered the impact her journey had on others. People who heard her story or witnessed her performances were inspired by her perseverance and courage. She received messages from individuals who admired her dedication, from those who had given up on their dreams but found hope in her example. This realization added a new dimension to her journey. She understood that her music was not just a personal pursuit. It had the power to touch lives, to motivate, and to create connections across different walks of life. The responsibility and privilege of sharing her talent became a driving force in her continued development. Over time, she embraced a disciplined routine that balanced practice, performances, and personal growth. She took lessons seriously, learning not only technical skills but also the nuances of expression and interpretation. She studied music theory, explored various genres, and challenged herself to experiment with new compositions. Each step brought her closer to mastering her craft, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that her efforts were translating into tangible progress. Her confidence grew steadily, and she began to envision a future where music was not just a passion but a central part of her life and identity. The young waitress also cultivated a network of mentors, peers, and supporters who provided guidance, encouragement, and opportunities. She connected with other musicians, sharing experiences and learning from their journeys. She understood that growth required not only talent but collaboration, feedback, and a willingness to learn from others. These interactions enriched her understanding of music, performance, and the industry, giving her a broader perspective and deeper appreciation for her craft. The support she received helped her navigate challenges, refine her skills, and embrace new opportunities with confidence. As her journey continued, she began to see the impact of her efforts on both her personal and professional life. Her performances became more polished, her style more distinctive, and her confidence more apparent. She experienced moments of triumph, receiving praise and recognition from audiences and mentors alike. Each performance reinforced her belief in her abilities and her commitment to her passion. She also learned to embrace setbacks and challenges as opportunities for growth, understanding that perseverance and resilience were essential components of success. The young waitress's relationship with the billionaire evolved as well. Their interactions shifted from initial guidance and encouragement to a deeper mentorship, where he provided strategic advice, shared insights from his own experiences, and encouraged her to pursue ambitious goals. He remained invested in her development, celebrating successes and helping her navigate challenges. His support was a source of stability and inspiration, reinforcing her confidence and providing a framework for her continued growth. She began to dream bigger, envisioning opportunities to perform on larger stages, to reach wider audiences, and to create music that would resonate with people beyond her immediate circle. Her aspirations expanded, fueled by her experiences, her growth, and the belief of those who supported her. She understood that success required not only talent and opportunity, but also persistence, creativity, and a willingness to take risks. Each step she took brought her closer to realizing her potential and fulfilling her dreams. The young waitress also remained grounded, aware of the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the nights of practice, the moments of doubt, and the small victories that had shaped her path. These memories served as a source of motivation and perspective, reminding her of the value of dedication, patience, and perseverance. She approached each new opportunity with humility, gratitude, and a determination to honor the talent and effort that had brought her to this point. As time went on, her reputation as a talented and dedicated musician grew. She received invitations to perform at prestigious venues, to collaborate with other artists, and to share her music with broader audiences. Each opportunity was a testament to her skill, dedication, and courage. She embraced these experiences with enthusiasm and professionalism, understanding that each performance was a chance to grow, to inspire, and to connect with others. Her journey was marked by continuous learning, self-discovery, and the pursuit of excellence. The young waitress's story became a source of inspiration for many. People admired her perseverance, her courage to step forward, and her commitment to her passion. She received messages from aspiring musicians, from individuals seeking encouragement, and from those inspired by